I'd rather die than ask him for help. Until fate forced her to knock on his door. The wound that started it all. Rain fell like needles the night Evelyn Hart spoke the words that would eventually haunt her. I'd rather die than ask him for help. She said it with her chin held high, her heels tapping against the marble floor of her father's corporate building. The kind of arrogance only someone born into wealth could carry. And the him she spoke of was Adrian Blake. A single father. A quiet mechanic. A man she once insulted without remorse. She thought their worlds would never cross again. But fate listens. And fate remembers. Because 3 years later, Evelyn Hart had nothing left. No money. No safety. No home. No one. And on the night she lost everything, her shaking hand would knock on the very door she once swore she'd never touch. The fall of a woman who thought she'd never fall. The Hart fortune didn't disappear slowly, it fell like a building imploding in a controlled demolition. Federal seizure. Frozen accounts. A betrayal inside her own company. Everyone who ever called her boss vanished within hours. Her fiancé disappeared first. Her friends next. Then even her relatives stopped answering her calls. Her apartment was repossessed. Her car was taken. Her cards declined one by one. In less than a week, the former heiress was homeless. Evelyn wandered the streets with a thin coat and a phone at 2% battery, each raindrop slicing her skin like a blade. She had nowhere left to run. Until destiny pushed her onto a street she recognized. One she didn't want to remember. One where a small garage sat at the corner. A flickering yellow light inside. And a familiar man working late. Her heart dropped. Adrian. The single dad she once humiliated. The man she once said wasn't worth the mud on her heels. Lightning split the sky. And with nowhere else to go, Evelyn lifted her trembling fist and knocked. Adrian opened the door. He froze. She froze. Water dripped from her eyelashes. Her lips were blue. Her body was shaking. Without looking him in the eye, she whispered the words she never imagined she'd say. I have nowhere else to go. Adrian didn't speak. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Because years ago, she didn't just insult him. She laughed at him. She told him, men like you only survive because people like me throw coins down from the top. I will never need you. That memory still stung. But the woman standing in front of him now wasn't the same one who said those words. This one was broken. Evelyn tried to stay composed, but her voice cracked. Adrian. Please. And then, she collapsed. His instincts took over. He grabbed her before she hit the ground. And for the first time in years, Adrian Blake carried her inside. When she woke up, she was wrapped in a blanket, beside a small heater. And Adrian's daughter, Lily, the little girl who once hid behind her father when Evelyn barked orders at the garage, was kneeling beside her. You're safe here, the child said softly. Evelyn's chest tightened. Adrian appeared, setting down a cup of warm tea. She forced out the question she feared most. Why didn't you throw me out? Adrian sat across from her, expression unreadable. Because my daughter was watching. The words hit harder than a slap. I won't teach her to abandon people, he added quietly. Even if those people once abandoned me. She lowered her head, tears dripping onto her hands. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn Hart apologized. I'm sorry, Adrian, for everything. Just as Evelyn began rebuilding her dignity piece by piece, danger knocked on the door again. The man who orchestrated the downfall of the Hart Empire, a former executive named Marcus Vale, had unfinished business. Evelyn knew too much. Her silence was valuable. Her disappearance, even more valuable. One night, while Adrian worked late, someone tried to break into the garage. Glass shattered. Lily screamed. Evelyn ran to shield the child. The intruder lunged, but Adrian arrived like thunder. He fought with the strength of a father protecting everything he loved. The attacker fled, but the message was clear. Evelyn wasn't just broke. She was hunted. After police sirens faded, Evelyn sat on the floor, hugging Lily tightly. I brought danger to your home, she whispered. I shouldn't have come. Adrian kneeled in front of her. His voice finally rose, not in anger, but in truth. You didn't bring danger here. Someone else brought pain into your life. You came here for safety because you trusted me. That means something. Evelyn broke. Not because of the danger. Not because of the fear. But because for the first time, someone saw her as human, not money. She sobbed into her palms. And Lily wrapped tiny arms around her. Over the next weeks, Adrian repaired more than just cars. He repaired the parts of Evelyn she never knew were fractured. He taught her how to cook simple meals. He taught her how to fix a tire. He taught her that worth wasn't in money, but in character. And she, in return, helped him with his garage records. Read stories to Lily every night. And gradually replaced fear with warmth. One evening, Adrian found her standing outside, staring at the sunset. I'm not that woman anymore, she whispered. The one who talked down to you. He replied. I never cared who you were before. I care who you're trying to become now. Those words healed wounds even she couldn't name. Marcus Vale eventually tracked her down. He came to silence her permanently. But he underestimated one thing. She was no longer alone. When Marcus tried to drag her away, Evelyn stood her ground and said, I used to be afraid of losing everything. But now I know the only thing worth having is someone who stands beside you when the world walks away. Adrian stepped behind her. Lily held on to her hand. Police arrived moments later. Adrian had already called. Marcus was arrested. And Evelyn? She didn't need money to win. She had courage. She had family. She had love. Months passed, quiet months, gentle months, the kind that rebuilt a person from the inside out. Evelyn rebuilt her life from zero. Not as an heiress. Not as a heart. Not as a woman protected by fortune or reputation. But as a woman who had walked through fire and come out carrying her own light. She learned to make peace with her past. She learned to forgive the version of herself who once believed money made her untouchable. And she learned to breathe again, slowly, steadily, beautifully. Every day, she grew softer in the right places, stronger in the wounded ones. And Adrian? He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, not to her, not to the world that slowly heard their story. He was the man who sheltered a fallen queen when every other door slammed in her face. The man who stood between danger and safety without asking for anything in return. The man who saved a life, not with wealth, not with status, but with the steady, unshakable power of a good heart. People whispered rumors about them. They always do when a story doesn't make sense on paper. A former heiress. And a single father from a small garage. But fairy tales were never meant to please critics. And in the end, only two things mattered. She healed. He healed her. Healing didn't come to her like a miracle. It came like sunrise, slow, warm, patient, persistent. Until one evening, the rain returned. The same kind of rain that once swallowed her whole, that once drove her to the only door left open. But this time, she wasn't shaking. She wasn't broken. She wasn't begging the universe for a place to breathe. She stood under the storm that once destroyed her life. And felt no fear. Adrian stood beside her, tightening a loose bolt on a sign outside the garage. He looked up as she stepped closer. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with hope. Adrian, can I stay? He didn't answer right away. He didn't need to. He simply reached out, took her hand, and intertwined his fingers with hers, as if they had always belonged there. You never had to ask. Lightning lit the sky. But nothing was frightening this time. Because she wasn't alone in the dark anymore. And for the first time, Evelyn's heart felt rich. Not in money. Not in power. But in love, dignity, and home. A home she didn't buy. A home she didn't inherit. A home she built, with the man who once had every reason to turn her away, and instead chose grace. Sometimes life breaks you so it can rebuild you into someone softer, wiser, and braver. Sometimes the person you once looked down on becomes the person who lifts you up. And sometimes, the greatest fortune you'll ever find is the heart that shelters you when the world walks away. Healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone you can finally love.